everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into something I know a lot of you guys have been asking about, improving your English speaking skills.
Yes.
And we've got a fun little source for this one. It's one of those super peppy YouTube videos, you know the ones I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
All about making language learning
Yeah.
fun and easy and accessible to everyone.
Yeah, they can be really motivating.
Totally.
Kind of-
But we're going to kind of sift through the super enthusiasm. There's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And pull out like the most practical tips.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
layer in some extra insights and things to really help you guys understand the why behind the tips.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's one thing to know you should practice, but
Hmm.
it's way more powerful to understand how that practice is actually like rewiring your brain to speak better.
Absolutely. So let's start with the foundation here. Why is daily practice so important for speaking English? I was really struck by this. The video makes this analogy to physical fitness. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a really good comparison. Like you can think of speaking any language. It's a skill, like playing an instrument or, I don't know, even juggling.
Right.
And the more you do it, the stronger those neural pathways become. So with English, you're basically training your brain to coordinate the pronunciation, the grammar, vocabulary. It's a full-on workout for your mind.
Huh. Makes me think maybe my brain isn't getting enough exercise. So if I'm understanding this right, it's not just about like memorizing words or rules, it's about building those connections so that I can speak more fluently without
Yes.
constantly translating in my head.
Exactly. That's one of the big benefits the video talks about. That consistent practice helps you shift from translating to thinking directly in English. And that's really where fluency starts to happen.
Right? You start to internalize the nuances of the language, the rhythm, the natural flow. Okay. Now I'm starting to get why even a few minutes each day can actually make a difference. It's like those micro workouts for your brain, getting those English muscles moving. But the video goes beyond just the why. It gives you all these creative, sometimes kind of silly practice ideas.
Oh, yeah.
So we're ready for the fun stuff.
Get ready to laugh.
Yeah.
Because they suggest talking to yourself.
Really? Like having full-on conversations with myself? Isn't that a little, I don't know, odd?
It might feel weird at first.
Yeah.
But just think about it. When you talk to yourself, even if you're just like describing what you're doing, you're practicing all those crucial speaking elements, pronunciation, sentence structure, vocabulary, and you're doing it without any pressure. No audience.
So it's like a safe space to experiment with the language and make mistakes and kind of find my own flow. I guess if I can have a conversation with myself, I can talk to anybody.
Right.
The video also mentions these mirror conversations,
Oh, yeah.
which sounds equally intriguing and terrifying.
That one definitely takes self-practice to a whole new level. But it can be surprisingly effective. Just imagine. You're having a conversation with your reflection. You ask a question. You answer it as the other person. You can even use gestures and everything.
Okay. Maybe with the curtains closed. But I get the idea. It's like a dress rehearsal for real-life conversations. I can see how that could help build confidence, especially for people who get nervous speaking in front of others.
Totally. That's exactly what the video is going for. It's about getting comfortable with the sounds of English coming out of your mouth, being more aware of your pronunciation and your body language. And you can do it all in your own little judgment-free zone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No critics allowed.
Except for yourself, I guess.
Well, hopefully you're a little nicer to yourself than other people would be.
Yeah. That's true. We should be our own best cheerleaders.
Right.
Okay, so I can already feel my inner introvert cringing at the thought of these mirror conversations. But I'm willing to try anything to boost my fluency. Speaking of which, the video throws out a bunch of other practice ideas. Some are a little more tech-focused. It talks about using language learning apps as a way to connect with other English speakers. What are your thoughts on that? Using apps for speaking practice.
I think they can be really useful, especially if you don't have a ton of opportunities to actually speak English in your daily life. Apps like the ones the video mentions, like Duolingo or HelloTalk. They can connect you with native speakers for language exchange.
Oh, that's cool. It's like having a virtual practice buddy right in your pocket. And I know there are tons of other apps out there too. Some of them focus on specific skills like pronunciation or vocabulary, and then others are more immersive.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of them have interactive exercises, games, even AI-powered conversation partners. So it can make practicing a lot more fun.
Yeah, it sounds like there's an app for every learning style and every preference. So even if you're not super techie, it's probably worth checking out what's out there. But what about people who struggle to find a practice partner, even online. The video suggests some pretty unconventional solutions,
Oh, yeah, they do.
like talking to your pets.
Talking to your pets.
I know it sounds silly,
It does.
but I've definitely had my share of one-sided conversations with my cat.
Me too.
He's a very good listener, even if his responses are limited to meows and tail twitches. But I can see how even talking to a non-human could help build confidence and get you used to the rhythm of the language.
It's all about finding those low-pressure environments to practice. And if your furry friend is your only audience, so be it.
Exactly. The important thing is just to keep those English gears turning. Now, the video also suggests narrating your day, like a reality show, which I love.
I love that one.
It sounds so entertaining and effective. I'm picturing myself walking down the grocery aisle and narrating every item I pick up in this super dramatic voice. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I would watch that show.
I do.
But, think about the cognitive benefits. You're constantly engaging with the language. You're forcing yourself to come up with the right words and sentences on the fly.
Absolutely.
It's like giving your brain that constant English workout, even during mundane tasks. And who knows, maybe I'll discover a hidden talent for reality TV commentary.
You never know.
But let's be real. Even with the most creative practice methods, there are going to be days when our motivation just dips. What about those times when we just don't feel like speaking English? How do we overcome those hurdles?
That's such a good question. And I think it's something that a lot of language learners struggle with. The video doesn't really address slumps specifically, but I think the overall message is about finding joy in the process. If you can make practice fun and engaging, you're more likely to keep doing it, even when it feels tough. Yeah, that makes sense. It's about shifting our perspective from seeing practice as a chore to seeing it as something fun, something we actually look forward to. And I think that's where those creative techniques come in, like talking to yourself or narrating your day. They add this element of playfulness to the learning process.
Exactly. And don't forget about the power of small rewards, like setting achievable goals and celebrating when you reach them. Did you have a 5-minute conversation in English? Awesome. Treat yourself to your favorite coffee or watch an episode of your favorite show.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's all about acknowledging your progress and giving yourself a little pat on the back. But what about the fear of making mistakes? I feel like that's a huge hurdle for so many language learners, including myself. How does the video approach that?
They really emphasize reframing mistakes as opportunities to learn. Every time you make a mistake, you're actually learning something. Your brain is making new connections.
It's like those aha moments when you finally figure something out after struggling with it for a while. It's not about being perfect. It's about embracing the imperfections as part of the learning process.
Absolutely.
And remember, even native English speakers make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
It's part of being human.
It is.
The key is to not let that fear of making a mistake paralyze us. The more we practice, the more comfortable we'll become. And those mistakes will start to decrease.
Exactly.
So true. It's about shifting our mindset from fear of failure to this growth mentality. Easier said than done, I guess,
It can be.
but definitely worth working towards. The video even includes some practice prompts to help people get those English sounds flowing. What are your thoughts on incorporating those kinds of exercises into daily practice?
I think they can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially for beginners or anyone who's just starting to build confidence. Repeating simple phrases out loud can really help with pronunciation. And intonation.
Yeah, it's like warming up your vocal cords and
Yeah.
getting your brain into English mode. The more you practice those basic phrases, the more natural they'll sound in real conversations.
For sure.
It's about building those foundational blocks brick by brick.
Exactly.
And, don't be afraid to get creative with those practice prompts. Instead of just reading them off a screen, try incorporating them into your daily routine.
That's a good idea.
Like asking my cat, can you help me find this book? Or narrating my breakfast. I'd like a cup of coffee, please.
I love it.
Yeah.
The
The more you can integrate English into your everyday life, the faster you'll progress.
Absolutely.
I love that approach. It's about making English less of a separate subject to study and more of an integral part of our lives. And speaking of integration, let's circle back to those tech tools we were talking about earlier. The video focuses on language learning apps, but there's a whole world of online resources that can be helpful for speaking practice.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Right.
Beyond apps, you've got online communities, language exchange platforms. You can even find virtual reality experiences that can immerse you in English-speaking environments.
Wow. And let's not forget about the massive library of English content Available on platforms like YouTube. You can find anything. Educational videos, movies and TV shows, vlogs, podcasts, all in English.
It's incredible.
It's such an amazing resource for both passive and active learning.
You can watch interviews with your favorite celebrities. You can listen to experts talk about fascinating topics. You can follow along with cooking tutorials, all while immersing yourself in the language.
It's like turning your leisure time into a sneaky English lesson.
I love it.
And the best part is, a lot of these online resources are free or very affordable. So no matter where you are or what your budget is, you have access to so many opportunities to practice speaking English.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about the digital age. It's really made language learning more accessible than ever before.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the cognitive benefits of daily practice to embracing mistakes as learning opportunities and finding creative ways to make English speaking a fun part of our routines. We've explored so many different strategies.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and ready to take action.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of explored all these tips and strategies, what are the key takeaways, the things you think our listeners should really focus on?
I think one of the most important things is that consistency is more important than intensity. Like, it's better to practice for a few minutes every day than to try to cram in hours of practice once a week. Those small, consistent steps, they're really what lead to big progress in the long run.
It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly.
We're not trying to become fluent overnight. It's about building those habits, making English a natural part of our lives.
I love that.
And kind of building on that, I think it's important to celebrate those little wins along the way. Like, did you order your coffee in English without freezing up? Or did you have a short conversation with a native speaker?
Yes.
Those are huge.
Whoa.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Those little victories keep you motivated and remind you that you're actually making progress.
Absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't achieved yet. But acknowledging those small steps forward is so crucial for building confidence.
Yeah.
And staying positive.
Totally. And speaking of staying positive, the video we're talking about is so upbeat and encouraging.
It is.
And I think that's a good reminder that learning a language doesn't have to be a chore. Yeah.
Sure. When you approach language learning with that sense of playfulness and curiosity, it becomes much more enjoyable, and you're way more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. So instead of dreading those practice sessions, we should think of them as opportunities to explore, to experiment, and just have fun with the language, whether it's trying out those mirror conversations or narrating our day like reality show stars. Embracing that sense of play can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, mistakes are essential for learning. Every time you make a mistake, your brain is making new connections. It's strengthening those neural pathways.
Right.
So don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Challenge yourself a little bit.
I love that. It's about shifting our perspective from seeing mistakes as failures to seeing them as valuable feedback.
Yes.
They show us where we need to improve, and they help us grow as learners.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really powerful message to leave our listeners with.
I agree. Embrace the imperfections. Celebrate those small wins. And most importantly, enjoy the journey. Learning a new language is a wonderful adventure. And the more you embrace that sense of exploration and discovery, the more rewarding it will be.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into daily English-speaking practice, we want to leave you with a challenge. What small step will you take today to practice speaking English?
It could be anything, from trying out one of the techniques we talked about to simply greeting a stranger in English. Every little bit counts.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of English learners out there, all working towards the same goal.
That's right.
So connect with other learners, share your experiences, support each other. We believe in you. Keep practicing, keep exploring, keep those English gears turning.
Yes.
Until next time, happy speaking. Now that we've sort of gone through all these tips and tricks, what are the big takeaways, the things our listeners should really focus on?
Well, I think one of the most important points is consistency over intensity. It's much better to practice a little bit every single day than to try and cram in a ton of practice once a week. You know, small, consistent steps. That's what really leads to big progress over time.
Yeah. It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race, right? We're not trying to become fluent overnight. It's all about building those habits, making English a natural part of our daily lives.
I love that.
And, you know, Kind of building on that, I think it's super important to celebrate those small wins
I love it.
along the way. Like,
Yeah.
did you manage to order your coffee in English without completely freezing up? Or did you have a short conversation with a native speaker?
Yes.
Those are huge.
Huge.
So give yourself a pat on the back. Those little victories, they can really keep you motivated and remind you that you're actually making progress.
Absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up
Hmm.
in what we haven't achieved yet.
Mm.
But acknowledging those small steps forward, that's what helps us build confidence and stay positive.
For sure. And speaking of staying positive, this video we're talking about, it's so upbeat and encouraging. And I think it's a valuable reminder that learning a language doesn't have to feel like a chore.
It really shouldn't.
Yeah.
When you approach language learning with that sense of playfulness and curiosity, it becomes so much more enjoyable, and you're way more likely to stick with it.
Totally. So instead of dreading those practice sessions, we should think of them as opportunities to explore the language, to experiment, to have fun with it, whether it's trying out those silly mirror conversations or, narrating our day like a reality show. Embracing that sense of play can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And remember, it's okay to make mistakes.
It really is.
Yeah.
In fact, mistakes are essential to the learning process.
They are.
Every time you make a mistake, your brain is making new connections. It's strengthening those neural pathways.
I like to think of it as like our brains are getting a little workout
Yeah.
every time we make a mistake.
Exactly.
So don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone, Challenge yourself.
I love that.
It's about shifting our perspective from seeing mistakes as failures to seeing them as valuable feedback.
Yes. It shows us what we need to work on.
Yeah.
And helps us grow.
Exactly. And I think that's such a powerful message. For our listeners,
I agree.
embrace the imperfections, celebrate the small wins, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Yes. Learning a new language. It's a wonderful adventure. And the more you embrace that sense of exploration, that sense of discovery, the more rewarding it will be.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into daily English speaking practice, we want to leave you with a challenge. What small step will you take today to practice speaking English?
Anything. Try one of the techniques we talked about. Or just greet a stranger in English. Every little bit helps.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of English learners out there, all working towards the same goal.
That's right.
So connect with each other, share your experiences, support each other along the way. We believe in you. Keep practicing, keep exploring, keep those English gears turning.
Keep going.
And until next time,
Happy speaking.